The sky hung heavy and gray as I stood beside Richard's grave, the murmur of mourners blending with the rustling leaves. I'm Laura Bennett, and I clutched Thomas's hand, not out of sorrow but to steady myself in this charade. My black dress felt stifling, a costume it donned for the occasion. People passed by, some offering soft condolences, others casting sidelong glances at Thomas, my companion, in a muted gray suit. I kept my head down, aware that one wrong move could unravel the fog. I'd built Richard's sister. Claire stood apart, her sharp eyes fixed on me. She had always been too perceptive, even as a girl, and now her gaze bore into me like a judge's gavel. When the priest's final words faded and the casket sank into the earth, Claire approached. He deserved more, she whispered, her voice cutting through the damp air. I nodded, murmuring thanks for coming, but her words lingered like a splinter under my skin. As the crowd thinned, Thomas squeezed my hand. It's over, he said quietly. I forced a tight smile, but Richard's shadow loomed larger than ever. The whispers started before the dirt settled. Walking to the car, I felt them prickling at my back, sharp and accusing. Did you see him with her? Someone muttered, too loud to ignore. Already stepping into Richard's shoes. My steps faltered, but Thomas urged me forward, his grip firm. I didn't dare look back. Acknowledging them would only fuel their suspicions. Claire lingered with Richard's old friends, her silence louder than their gossip. She'd suspected my affair with Thomas long before Richard's death. Though she had no proof, just a hunch she'd nurtured into certainty. I'd been careful, or so I thought, masking our stolen moments behind excuses and smiles. But Claire's stare followed me, a quiet threat I couldn't shake. As we drove away, she stepped closer, her voice low. I hope the will gives you what you want, Laura. Her tone was icy, and I replied, I just want what Richard intended, though the lie tasted bitter. Thomas brushed it off. She can't change anything, he said. I nodded, but doubt nodded. Claire knew more than she let on. Back at Richard's house, I sank into his leather armchair, a glass of wine trembling in my hand. Thomas paced his confidence and shaken. The room still smelled of Richard's cologne, clinging to the drapes, his photos lining the shelves. I stared at one, his stern face frozen in time, and felt a shiver. You need to stop looking at those, Thomas said, his voice firm. Richard's gone soon. This will all be ours. I wanted to believe him, but the weight of Claire's words pressed on me. She's watching us, I murmured, setting the glass down. She's always hated me. Thomas laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. Claire's just a grieving sister with no power. The wills set you're his wife. His certainty was a lifeline, and I clung to it, leaning into his embrace. Soon, he whispered, kissing my forehead. This will be behind us. But as his arms tightened around me, I couldn't shake the feeling that Richard's presence wasn't ready to fade. A letter arrived days later, crisp and formal, from Richard's lawyer. It sat on the counter unopened, its weight heavier than paper should be. Thomas found me staring at it, my fingers tracing the edges. Well, he asked, impatient. Open it, I hesitated, then tore it free. It summoned us to the will. Reading that freed a cold, official notice. It's just routine, Thomas said. Skimming it, you'll get everything. But I wasn't so sure. Richard had been distant before he died, his eyes searching mine, as if he knew something. I dismissed it as his illness talking, but now it haunted me. Come with me, I said, folding the letter. Thomas raised an eyebrow, but agreed. As I slid it back into the envelope, dread settled in. My Kestercard's last move was coming, and I feared it wouldn't be what I expected. Friday dawn, bleak clouds pressing low. As we drove to the lawyer's office, I wore a black blazer, one of Richard's favorites, hoping it might shield me. Thomas sat beside me, calm and collected. The office was stark leather chairs, polished wooden. Claire was already there, her gaze unyielding. Others filed, and Reichert's old colleagues, a cousin I barely knew, more than it anticipated. My stomach churned. Relax, Thomas whispered, his hand on mine. This is just for show. But the room felt charged, like a stage set for a reckoning. The lawyer, Mr. Grayson, entered, his presence steady as he shuffled papers. Thank you for coming, he began. Voice even. I gripped the chair, bracing myself when Grayson reached the will's core. The air thickened to my sister Claire. He read, pausing. I leave my entire savings and all assets. My breath caught. The room tilting. Thomas stiffened beside me. His calm shattering. That's impossible. I blurted, my voice sharp. I'm his wife. Grayson raised a hand. The will was updated and notarized a month before Richard's death. It's legal. I turned to Claire, her faint smile slicing through me. What about me? I demanded. Panic rising, Grayson flipped a page. Mrs. Bennett receives $15,000. 15,000th fraction of Richard's wealth. Thomas's grip tightened. Do something? He hissed, but I was frozen. Richard had known about Thomas, about using this was his revenge. Cold and deliberate, the ride home was silent. Rage simmering between us. You should be seeing this, Thomas snapped, his hands tight on the wheel. How could I shot back. We were careful, but were we? Richard's final act proved HDC. Me and Claire had one back home. I paced his study, the walls closing in. A knock startled McClare, standing there serene. You should let this go, she said, her voice soft but firm. Richard knew who you were, Laura. Her words hit hard, and as she left, I realized the truth. It underestimated him. And now I'd lost everything.